Practice 11-1, Simplifying Rational Expressions. So a rational expression is a fraction with a variable in a denominator. So when I say variable, I basically mean a letter. So x, a, x plus 2. Anytime there's a letter in the denominator of this fraction, it's a rational expression. And every time we have a fraction, we want to make sure that we put it in simplest terms, even when there's a letter in there. So, with this in mind, we have 6x to the fourth over 18x squared. So what we want to do is simplify this fraction. So 6x to the fourth is like saying 2 times 3 times x times x times x times x, because it's x to the fourth, there's 4 x's. 18 is like saying, let's see, 2 times 3 times 3 times x. So anytime we have something repeating, we can cross it out. Anytime we have something on the top and bottom. So we can cross out this 2, we can cross out this 3, and we can cross out 2 of these x's. So we can only cross it out if it appears on both the top and bottom. So on the top, we have these 2 x's, and that's x squared. And on the bottom, we just have this 3. So what we end up with is x squared over 3, and this is our answer for number 1. Now we have 3x minus 6 over 6. So anytime you have a plus or minus sign like this, you can't just go ahead and cross off, 2 numbers that appear on the top and bottom, because this minus sign means that these two are attached, the 3x and the 6. You can't separate them. That would be like trying to separate Siamese twins. It would be very painful. So what we want to do instead is we want to simplify the numerator. So we are going to look for the common factor in 3x and 6, which is 3, and we're going to factor it out. So we're going to say 3 and then 3x divided by 3, which is x, minus 6 divided by 3, which is 2. And we're going to put this over 6. So 6 can be simplified as 3 times 2. So what this means is we have a 3 on the top and a 3 on the bottom. So we can cross this out, and our answer is going to be x minus 2 over 2. So remember, we can't cross out this 2 and this 2 because this minus sign binds this 2 to this x. It's like there's a parentheses around them. They're their own number. It's its own entity. So now we have 21x squared y over 14xy squared. So 21x squared y we can simplify as 7 times 3 times x times y. Okay? 14xy squared we can simplify as 7 times 2 times x times y times y. So when we simplify this, we can cross out like terms. So we can cross out this 7 and this 7, this x and this x, and this y and this y. So on the top, what we have left is, let's see, we have this 3 and this x. So 3 times x is 3x over this 2 and this y, and 2 times y is 2y. So this is our simplified expression. Now we have 2 sets of binomials. We have x squared minus 5x and 5x minus 25. So before we do anything, we want to simplify these terms. Now remember, we can't just cross out this 5x and this 5x because there's a minus sign attached. Anytime there's a plus or minus sign, we can't cross stuff off unless we're crossing out the whole expression. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify this by looking for common terms. So the common factor in x squared minus 5x is the x. So we're going to factor out the x, okay, and x squared divided by x is x minus 5x divided by x, which is 5. So this is our numerator. Now we want to simplify our denominator. So 5x and 25 have 5 in common. and we're going to factor that out to x minus 5. Okay, so like I said before, we can't just cross out this 5 and this 5, or this 5 and this x and this x. But what we can do is, since inside these parentheses we have the exact same thing, x minus 5. So these are bound together, but if these two are exactly the same, then we can cross it out. So we can cross out this x minus 5 and this x minus 5. So what we end up with is our leftover. So we have this x and this 5. So we have x over 5. And this is our answer. So once again, we want to simplify. So we have x to the third plus x squared. We can factor out 2 x's from each of these. So we're going to factor out x squared, and x to the third divided by x squared is just x, plus x squared divided by x squared, which is 1. So we have x squared times x plus 1 over x plus 1. So once again, this x plus 1 is the same as this x plus 1, which means we can cross these both out. Okay? And all we have left is this x squared. So our answer is x squared. 18. So on the top now we have a trinomial, which means we need to factor the numerator with 2 parentheses. So we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to equal 2 and add to equal 3, so which is 2 and 1. So we have x plus 2 and x plus 1 as our numerator. For our denominator, we want to factor out, this is just a binomial, so we don't need the 2 parentheses, we just need to find the greatest common factor, which is x squared. So we're going to factor out x squared, and then we have x plus 1. So since this x plus 1 and this x plus 1 are the same, we can actually cancel these out. So what we have left on top is x plus 2, and what we have left on the bottom is x squared. So this is going to be our final answer, x plus 2 over x squared. Now we have 3x plus 3y over x squared plus xy. Once again, we want to look for a common factor, which is 3. So we're going to factor out 3, and then we have x plus y inside the parentheses over x squared plus xy. So we're going to factor out an x, and once again, we have x plus y. So since we have x plus y on top and x plus y on the bottom, we can cancel this out. And what we have left is 3 over x. So this is our answer. Now we have 2 sets of trinomials, one on the top and one on the bottom, which means we are going to have 2 sets of 2 parentheses. Okay, so on top, we want to find 2 numbers that multiply to equal negative 15 and add to equal positive 2. So 5 and 3, since 2 is positive, the bigger number is going to be positive. So we're going to have plus 5 and minus 3. So x plus 5 and x minus 3. On the bottom, we have a positive 12 and a negative 7, which means that we're looking at 2 negative numbers, because a negative times a negative is a positive, but a negative plus a negative is a negative. So we're looking for 2 numbers that multiply to equal positive 12 and add to equal negative 7. So what we're going to have is x minus 3 and x minus 4, because negative 3 times negative 4 is positive 12, and when you add them, it's negative 7. So if you look at this fraction, we have x minus 3 and x minus 3 on the top and bottom, which means we can cancel this out. So that means that our answer is going to be x plus 5 over x minus 4. And this is our final answer. And that is it for simplifying rational expressions. Simplifying rational expressions.